This demo will show putting a warp on a Louet Spring 2 loom using LoftyFiber's Helping Hands. The same process will apply to this David 3 as well as the earlier versions Spring 1 and David 2. Let's take a look at the components of the Helping Hands for the Louet Spring and David looms. We're going to first show the beaming brackets. They fit on the left and right sides of the castle as shown, putting it fully over the lip at the back and snapping into place. There's a threading bracket when you're ready to thread that fits also on the uprights at approximately the level of the heddles. A piece of Texsolve is supplied that hooks over the cup hook on the loom, and you can adjust this to get it at the exact height that you want for threading. So into these two brackets we have a base that's used in beaming position and then moved down to threading. It slips easily under a tab at the bottom and snaps under the top tab as shown. It hooks the same way into the threading bracket by pushing under the tab first and snapping into place. Push back on that top tab to lift out. Now we have our warp chain wound, and we put the least sticks through the cross and bundled up the remainder of the chain on the castle. One of the bases we have clipped in, we put the least sticks through. The other one we take loose and slide over the other end of the least sticks, then clip it into place. Now we're putting in locking pins to make sure that there's no chance these least sticks are going to fall out. Put them on, so you'll need 4 locking pins for this. Now you're ready to cut the ties on your cross and start to spread the warp and the rattle. And here I have the LoftyFiber rattle with the Louet clips on top of the built-in rattle, but you can just also use the Louet built-in rattle. Either way is fine. I typically mark the point I want to start at with the caps and just start to spread. So now we're almost through spreading the warp and the rattle. So now we're going to, I'm holding the choke ties standing at the front of the loom, and that excess warp after the cross, I'm pulling it up flush against the least sticks. So now I'm going to walk back to the back of the loom and make sure that all of the loops are flush against the sticks, and if they're not, I'll help them get that way. So what I'm doing now is taking that apron rod, and it can be a metal bar or it can be the wooden tie-up stick as Louet calls them, but we're going to put that down through those loops on the bottom least sticks. So once you have that done, just kind of pull it down, even it up, and take those 2 little Texsolve loops, and you can adjust these if you want them closer or further away, but put them on each side of the 2 apron rods, the one that's attached to the loom and the one that you just put through the loops. And that'll hold those 2 apron rods in place while you prepare for your lashing. Now here I'm using a netting needle, but you can use a butterfly or any way you want to. Usually you need about 5 times the width of your warp to do the lashing. I'm tying a knot onto one of the apron bars, and then I start to go around the top apron bar and over the bottom, and each time I'm always coming through the middle like in a figure 8 pattern, and taking about an inch or so of warp each time. So up through the middle, slide about an inch of warp. You can also go up to your least sticks and slide them over, and put your lashing cord through, and keep going all the way across the warp. At the end, tie a knot, and now you're ready to start beaming your warp. When beaming, be sure to release your brake by holding the brake lever up and winding using the crank. And put paper and or sticks between the layers. Sometimes I like to start with paper to cover those cords. I feel like it gives a little bit better coverage at the start of the warp. Now you want to, as you wind, I usually wind only about 1/2, 3/4 of a turn before I go back to the front of the loom and tension the warp. If you have a helper who can help tension the warp as you beam, you may not need to go back and forth like this, but doing it by yourself, just go to the front of the loom, and I take small bundles about a couple inches wide or so between my thumb and my forefinger and work across the warp and make sure that I'm getting any of the slack out. So now when you've got it beamed and your warp is just slightly under the castle, you can take off those end choke ties and trim the loops off. Now you're ready to remove your warp from the rattle. Here I'm sliding the caps off and just taking it in bundles and dropping it down over the top lee stick. And once that's done, we're going to release the top clip. Just push it back and unpop it on both sides. Then you can pick up out of that bottom tab and lower it right into the threading brackets. And put it under that tab at the bottom on both sides. And then it's sitting up there, and you just snap both of those top clips into place. Now you're ready to thread. So now I'm sitting at the front of the loom on a lower stool and pulling my heddles over and threading. Now we've tied on, and Gloria's taking these new Lingen placemats for a test drive on the loom.